Stay tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. Joan served the state of California as a member on the Arts Council and on the Film Commission. She was formerly on the Architectural Commission and fulfilled 2 terms on the Fine Arts Commission for the city of Beverly Hills. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview magazine, Condé Nast Publications, and the Hearst Corporation, Joan covered the world of fashion, the mysteries of food, the excitement of theater, and the international art scene. She continues to find people who are on the cutting edge of their professions. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're taping at the Hollywood Museum on Highland Avenue in the heart of Hollywood. Our guests today are actress Tara Grammy and artist Jorge Oswaldo. Performer, writer Tara Grammy was born in Iran and raised in Toronto, Canada. She earned a degree in theater from University of Toronto, and because she's traveled the world, her interests have become focused on the immigrant life. Her award-winning performance in Mahmoud, is that how you say it? Mahmoud. Mahmoud, yeah, has been seen in Toronto, New York, and in Santa Monica. Yeah. And it's playing again in the Valley. So tell us how you became interested in the experience of immigrants.
I just found that a lot of immigrant stories weren't being told as often as I would have liked to see them be told. You know, I felt like, especially the Iranian immigrant experience, because it's such a hot topic in the news, I felt like it was really rare to hear about it in the arts. So,
did you live those times with your family? Did you live through those times, those immigrant stories, and with your friends and different people?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Toronto, which is a city that's built on the backs of immigrants. I mean, everyone's an immigrant in Toronto, and there's a very big Iranian community. Oh. And yeah, so, totally, lots of immigrants.
And where did the stories come from? Did they come from friends?
The stories from the show?
Stories in general. Weren't you just listening to stories, generally speaking?
Absolutely, yeah. Friends, family, just, you know, the whole culture, the Iranian immigrant culture as a whole. There's a lot of stories. So.
And I think those stories coincide with all of the stories. You just change the name, change the names, and change where they came from. Because I think all immigrants go through the same thing.
Sure, yeah. Different variations of the same thing, for sure, yeah, absolutely.
When you were at the University of Toronto, you worked with a lot of top theater artists.
I did.
Who were they, and what did you learn from them?
Wow, I mean, I worked with some of the biggest names in Canadian theater. My first year at university was, my professor was Ken Gass, who is this genius man who's done so much for the arts in Toronto. And I've worked with Leah Cherniak, who's amazing, Martha Ross, Sohail Parsa. These are all huge names in the Canadian theater community who, from each of them, I think the Canadian theater is a lot about identity, and finding your identity, which is, you know, has a lot to do with the immigrant experience as well. And from each of them, as an actor, I was able to find my identity. So it was really a pleasure to work with such theater greats.
Did you take acting classes in Toronto?
Yeah, I went to theater school, right? So
it was all acting classes?
Mostly acting classes, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So how did you when did you write Mahmoud? Had you written other things before that?
So Mahmoud was actually a 10-minute piece, self-written piece that, it started off as a 10-minute self-written piece for my final project.
At school?
At school, yeah.
I see.
And I did it with Leah Cherniak. And yeah, it was just a 10-minute piece. And it's a long story how it came about, but basically it came from all of my interactions with taxi drivers in Toronto.
Is it in Toronto?
Yeah. It's based in Toronto. The whole play takes place in Toronto. So it started off as a 10-minute piece, then I developed it with the current director and co-writer, Tom Arthur Davis, to a 20-minute piece, and it did really well, and then we developed it into an hour-long piece.
And now it's an hour-long piece.
Yes.
Tell us who the director is. And it's at the White, where is
It's
it?
at the Whitefire Theater.
Whitefire Theater.
Yes, in the Valley. His name's Tom Arthur Davis. We went to school together, and yeah, he's an amazing director.
So he's been working with you.
Yes.
And are you the star?
It's a one-woman show.
You're the star.
So
but how many people? So he didn't have problems casting it, did he?
No. We wrote it together, so he better have cast me.
Yeah. What about costuming?
The costuming is very, very simple. The whole staging of the play, it's me, a carpet, and a chair. There are very few props. There's very little anything, and I'm just in a black jacket and black pants, and that's it.
Do you change? You add things to it? You don't. How do you change your characters?
Through my face, my voice, and my gestures.
What about the lighting?
And the lighting as well.
And music?
And the music. Each one has a theme song as well. You're way ahead of me. Yeah.
No, but I'm just because those are the components we need with a one-person show, right?
Exactly.
Does he move you around, or you stay just in the chair?
I do move around, but I stay on the carpet most of it.
What kind of carpet is it?
It's a Persian carpet.
Is it your own?
It is my. Yeah.
Well, tell us who the characters are.
So I play Mahmoud, who's an Iranian engineer. He's a 56-year-old man who was an engineer in Iran and who now drives a cab in Toronto. I play Emanuelos, who is a Spanish man who is in love with an Iranian man.
She's a Spanish woman.
No, he's a Spanish man.
Oh, it is a
and
Spanish
he's in love
man?
with a Spanish
Emanuela, I thought.
Emanuelos.
Oh,
There's
okay.
a los at the end. Yeah.
Okay. And
It's
he's
a
in love. Okay.
He's in love with an Iranian man.
Okay.
And
which is like so taboo.
So taboo in my culture. And I play a 12-year-old version of myself.
So there's three characters.
Three characters.
Okay. So what does the first character?
Mahmoud.
As a man, how do you look as a man? What do you do?
I hunch over, I have an accent, I move my eyebrows a lot.
Do you change your hair?
Yeah, I had my hair back during the show.
You do?
Yeah.
And then for the next person?
Emanuela sit down like this, and he's very nice, and that's it. This is his gesture. Down like this.
And the last one?
Tara.
Tara, 12. Yeah.
She likes your set, I think.
So it's all, is the light just on you, on your face?
I think so. I've never really seen the lights for the show. I've heard they're really great, but but I think the lights are on me. Yeah.
You wrote it together. You wrote it with him.
Yes.
So did he edit stuff? Did he edit things out that you wanted in? Was there a problem? Was there any give and take like that?
Honestly, this sounds so corny, but I trusted his artistic vision so much, and because he's an actor and he's a fantastic actor as well. So whatever he told me to do, I did. I mean, we butt heads a little bit on some things, but no, for the most part, whatever. Yeah, we made a lot of decisions together.
So leading up to this, you've been in a lot of plays. You've been in Traveling Salesman and His Magical Suitcase. Tell us about that.
This is actually, it's a wonderful children's show written by a great team of Commedia dell'arte artists in Toronto. And yeah, it was this really fun play that we did that won the Toronto Fringe Festival a few years ago. And then Mahmoud won the next year, so it was so great.
So you were in both of them,
Yeah,
one after the
yeah,
other.
so
great. But the Traveling Salesman didn't have the immigrant thing, did it?
Well, it kind of did.
In a way, that's what I was thinking.
It did, yeah. For me, I like to play also multinational identities are really interesting for me. So I played a British mayor who was.
He was talking like this, and he had a big belly and a mustache.
And then, who was a variation of the Commedia dell'arte character Pantalone.
Oh, right. Fabulous.
And then I played Isabel, and she was from the South, so
that was perfect.
So that was really fun, too.
So you played a lot of characters in that.
I did, and I played a weird little kid, too. I always end up playing little kids.
And then Mahmoud, you played 3 people, so
Yeah.
you had it one year after the other. That's
Yes.
fantastic.
Yeah.
What about White Rabbit, Red Rabbit?
Oh, that is a genius piece of theater. That is, so it's by an Iranian man.
Oh.
Who the way it works is every actor, it's a series of actors in every city that it goes to, gets the script the night of the show. So only a different actor has to do it every night.
So you're cast, it's already cast, but they don't know anything about it.
I knew nothing about it. I just knew I had to walk on stage, pick up a sealed envelope, and read it out to the audience. And it was the scariest, most beautiful thing I have ever done. It was amazing. It's such a well-written, and it's about a lot of things, but one of the things is he couldn't leave Iran at the time, the writer of the play, so it was him kind of being in that room with this Canadian audience, and it was so powerful. It was amazing.
So was it just one character?
It was just me reading.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
Oh, you're back to your one character again. Wow. And Murder on Ossington?
That was actually written by Tom Arthur Davis as well.
You're the one who wrote
Who wrote
with you?
With me, and a good friend of mine, Alex Rubin. And it was staged in a house. And
that's great.
It was staged in their apartment, actually, in their house. And there were 4 rooms, and each room had a different story in it. And there were only 12 audience members allowed at a time, and they would split them and rotate, so we had to do each scene 4 times.
Oh, that's great.
It was so much fun.
Was this in Toronto, too?
This was in Toronto, too.
Very active theater.
Absolutely.
Very active theater community.
Yeah.
And film community.
And film community, yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Do you continue to take acting lessons?
Yes and no.
You teach yourself?
Well, I've done a lot of Mahmoud over the past couple of years. It's been a lot of Mahmoud. I've taken a couple of acting classes here and there, but my focus really has been to get the show to where it needs to be.
And what about writing workshops? Did you take them before you started writing this? No, you never did?
This all happened through improv, this show.
Really?
Yeah, we improvised the heck out of it.
But did you take improv classes? Did you ever go on stage?
It was part of what we did in theater school.
Oh, it was? Oh, was it from school?
Yeah.
What about films and TVs? Do you have any interest in that?
Absolutely. I mean, I would not say no to Steven Spielberg.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding. No, I would definitely not say no. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have an agent in Toronto. I have a manager in LA, and I do go out for things.
So where do you live, actually?
I'm not sure.
Because, you know, Canada, as we say, is so good for actors, but we also, LA is good for actors,
LA
too.
is the best for actors. You know, I'm really lucky that I have a working visa in the States, so I'm able to work here and in Canada. So I've been trying to build a base in both places over the past year, going back and forth.
But not Iran. Not Tehran.
I can't go back to Tehran.
Oh, isn't that sad? Because I bet it's a beautiful city.
Oh, it is really special. It's a really special place.
Well, we're so glad you came to talk to us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thanks for watching this part of the show. Don't go away because we have artist Jorge Oswaldo. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here at the Hollywood Museum taping, and I'm with artist Jorge Oswaldo, who was born in El Salvador and raised in a suburb of Chicago. He has a degree from DePaul University and an MFA in Studio Arts from the University of Illinois, Chicago. He's a graphic designer, a digital designer, and a vinyl designer. So, how does someone from El Salvador end up in Chicago? How did the weather is so different?
You end up there because you have no choice.
Is that it?
My parents followed my grandparents to a suburb of Chicago because there was just family there, and then my parents just decided to stay there and buy a house, and
They just made a life there?
uprooted. They moved because the situation in El Salvador wasn't that good at that time, and they sold their house. They actually both had really good jobs at the time. Sold their house and sort of gave up their careers, and then moved to a place where they couldn't even speak English.
Were they in art? Was there any art in your family?
None whatsoever.
So how did this come about?
I personally think it has to do with me not being, like, feeling like I fit in. And so I would just get wrapped up in playing with toys or Legos or drawing just because I didn't quite, at home I had to speak Spanish. My parents didn't speak English.
I was going to ask you, do you speak Spanish?
Sí, hablo español.
Okay.
Perfectamente.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Oh, good.
But, you
But
know.
that was good here. Was it good in Chicago?
No, not at all. I mean, not at all. At home it was really good, except, you know, growing up I was like, I don't get it.
Right.
You know? You make us speak Spanish at home, but at school I have to speak English. So I didn't quite fit in at school because I didn't grow up with all the kids that sort of grew up in that neighborhood. You
when
know,
you came to LA?
Well, so then I came to LA following my beautiful girlfriend, Amy Schuster. She moved out here to pursue an acting career. And what first began as like a class, an acting class, turned into an internship, turned into a job. And at that point we were getting pretty serious, so I said, what the heck, why not? So I moved all my stuff, and just being an artist at that point, not really doing anything digital. And I moved out here, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any friends, I just had her, and
that's enough.
And she's like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I have no idea. I know that I was getting interested in Apple computers at the time.
Oh, you didn't play with a computer as a kid?
No, well, we had basic computers.
But it wasn't like every minute you were on the computer?
No, not at all. I mean,
because you do most of your work with that, you depend on it, right?
I mean, for the most part, everything I do is on my work. You know, I design a lot.
Oh, I thought as a kid you did that.
No, we were pretty poor. We didn't have a computer till like the late '90s. And I remember when AOL first came on, and that was like a big deal. I actually still have my AOL.
Do you?
Just because I think it's kept it. But so I moved out here and I didn't know what to do. So she's like, "Well, why don't you go try getting a job at the Apple Store?" And I thought, okay, that's cool. I don't know what I would do since I have a master's degree. I'm like, I don't know. What I could offer, in terms of
You have
retail.
a master's degree in studio art, right?
Studio
then
art.
I want you to explain that as soon as you finish your job at AOL at Apple.
So I was like, okay, well, everyone wants to work there. This is when Apple was first starting to get really, really big. And I decided to just go in person meet all the managers in the surrounding area in LA where I could sort of drive to. And I decided that everyone was doing probably the same thing in terms of resumes. So I made a video, a reason why I should work at Apple. And I didn't turn a resume, I turned it in a DVD.
Is that right?
And the recruiter remembered that, and that's why.
That's why they say when you're doing a resume, find something that's going to catch their eye.
Right.
And you did it.
In this
and
case,
did you get the job?
I did. No, I did. And that's where I learned how to really use the computer, I think.
I didn't
learn in school. I started to, but...
So what happens in studio art? What kind of a class is that?
The program I went to for BFA or for MFA?
For both.
For both. For BFA was a really, really amazing time. It was a school that used to be an all-girls school. So for me, it was awesome because it was all, the ratio of girls to guys was...
It was still, they were just integrating?
Yeah, so there was more girls than there were guys, so it was perfect for me. And that's where I met my girlfriend.
Oh, good.
But long story short, the benefit of going there was that the school was just, you would be immersed in art, in dance, theater, painting, drawing, printmaking, photography, everything.
For your bachelor's?
For my bachelor's.
And then the master's was the same thing?
The master's was a little different. It was a big university, but the program was similar in that it was also small. There's not a lot of students, so you got a lot of attention from all the professors. The cool thing about masters, they sort of prepared me for learning how to talk about my work, which is something I didn't learn in undergrad too much. It was more just like I was selfish and I got to make whatever I wanted in undergrad, and I could explore everything and do everything. But in my master's program, they really encouraged you to talk about the work, not necessarily how you would do it. It was more about getting a good concept.
But to get people involved,
to get people involved, yeah.
So explain, since you learned how to do that, what is the graphic part of the work? I know you work for Stussy.
The graphic part.
Do we have a graphic part that we're going to show?
Maybe we can talk about this.
Okay, talk about it. This. We're going to talk about this, right?
That's a pattern that I made from a variety of well-known logos, famous logos, companies that...
Oh, it is all combined in here?
Only logos, yeah. It's like, for me, it's a rendition of almost like a hieroglyphic pattern,
It looks like street art to me.
And it does have that sort of flavor as well.
But it's not the same as a street artist would be, because you've specifically
Yeah, there are specific choices I made.
Yes. What are the logos there?
There's Louis Vuitton. If you turn it this way.
Is this the way it's supposed to be? Sorry.
That's okay. You can see Puma, Coca-Cola, Motorola, Corona, Benetton.
That's fantastic.
Louis Vuitton, Chanel.
And then do you deconstruct it?
Yeah, so that's going back to my childhood. I think what I've been noticing more is I sort of can find it in an experience or a memory that I had when I was a kid, and I try to redo that. But now that I'm older and smarter, in a more sophisticated way. So it's very much like playing with Legos. You start with a bunch of pieces and you put them together.
I see. Then what happened with like printing on clothes? Is that what you did too?
The printing on clothes is just more of a job, but I learned at Stussy to sort of burn through graphics and sort of generate things. And
but did you design the things that went on the clothes?
Yeah,
You did.
That's what I currently do.
That's what you do now. What about vinyl? What's vinyl art?
Vinyl art?
Yeah, what is that? Records, I think of vinyl.
Right,
record.
that's what everyone, if you Google it, you'll get records.
You will.
But you have to, I guess, self-adhesive vinyl is the distinguishing.
Self-adhesive vinyl, yeah.
Right.
So that's what this is?
That's what this is. The material it's a fairly common material. It's something you'd find on any window or any storefront or any vehicle, buses, anything that has like a smooth surface that it can stick to. They get used more for commercial purposes.
So what? So you stick it to the surface?
I stick it to wood, plexiglass, glass, anything that's like can take up.
And what is this?
Those are shapes that I've designed on the computer, and then used a machine to cut.
And what material
shapes.
Comes out?
It's literally a sheet of vinyl, self-adhesive vinyl.
Oh, it is a sheet of vinyl.
And think of it as like a giant sticker sheet that gets cut. Only I get to make the sticker shapes myself.
Oh, I see.
And then I peel them, and they become these more manageable shapes.
One of the things you talk about in computer and this kind of work is you can see your hand or you can't see your hand. Mm-hmm. And an artist likes to see their hand. I like to see an artist's hand in something.
Yeah.
How do you decipher that or talk about that?
Most recently, the hand element is in the materials that I'm using. So I've been playing around with applying stuff to canvas using more like a substrate.
So that's your
changes.
hand involved in it.
That part, and then also the arrangement of the shapes. So a machine can cut these shapes, but a machine cannot arrange them how I would arrange them.
I see, put them on. So is this part of your identity? Are all these things that we're talking about part of your identity now? Have you created an identity for yourself?
I guess you could say that. I mean, it's changing. I don't know what that is. I don't know what this time in art is or how I fit into everything, but there are certain things that I do, like taking things apart and putting them back together. That is a huge part of my work. Another part of my work is getting people involved, having some sort of interaction with the work. So those two things, I think, are the biggest.
But the thing that I like that you say, you can tell what a person is by the brands that they're wearing.
Yeah.
So explain that.
So I've been on this logo kick for a few years now, and I guess
which is kind of passé logo, except that now it's turned into this big branding stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's enormous, you know. There are there's so many things to go into, but I guess the biggest thing is I started getting into logos being at Stussy and just sort of seeing the amount of collaborations that we do throughout the year, and I would collect these logos of companies that we worked with, and in a way that they're just a shape, just like the shapes I was doing on my own.
Right.
And that's when
I mean, they're within a shape.
Yeah, they are a shape, really. In essence, that's what a logo is. It's a familiar shape that you associate things with.
Right.
So then that sort of led me down the path of discovering what an identity is, because I'm sort of still trying to figure that out myself.
So are you looking at people and going, oh, he's wearing a alligator, he's wearing a Cartier watch, he's wearing a baseball cap, he's wearing a Stussy shirt. What?
Everyone makes that sort of snap judgment no matter who you are. But I don't look at people that way too much. It's just so much, I guess, how logos have sort of overtaken the world.
So they've overtaken it, you bring them together, and then you, in a way, deactivate them.
Yeah.
Or tear them apart, right?
Tear them apart and put them back in my own way.
And then, did we talk about your computer work? We talked about vinyl, and we talked about graphic and computer.
Right. I have another good story going back to logos. When my dad moved here in the early 80s, he was with my sister, and they actually crossed the border down near San Diego. And he was crossing the border, and he hurt his foot. This is the second time he had tried to do this. And he hurt his foot, and the guy next to him said, "I'll carry your daughter if you give me the shirt that you're wearing." And the shirt was a Lacoste shirt. So that
it was an alligator, right?
Alligator. And so my dad came into the United States completely shirtless.
Is that
and
right?
that was my first memory of my dad telling me a story of like, whoa.
I gave him the shirt off my back.
Like that's when I sort of began to understand like things that stand for something are worth something.
Right. So it was because he had that name brand.
That name brand
right.
that sort of
They got your sister here.
Yeah, they got my sister here. Another story was when they came here and they didn't speak English, and they would only go to McDonald's because they can only say number 1, number 2, and that was like a familiar thing. And even to this day, when they come to visit, they're like, "Let's just go to McDonald's," because they're familiar with it and they understand it.
So in a way, it isn't really status so much. In a way, a logo can be comforting too.
Yeah, it's familiarity for sure.
You had a show in Torrance. Mm-hmm. Was it canvas? What was it?
That was canvas and wood.
And how'd you prepare the canvas?
The canvases are painstakingly prepared.
I know, I saw you doing them online.
There's certain parts of my work where they have to be a certain way, and I don't know if it's just me trying to be perfect or erase the hand, but I often spend a lot of time preparing how my art is going to end up on it. Almost to the point where it's like, what's the point of putting it on a canvas if you can't see the canvas?
Oh, is that so? You want to see the canvas?
I want to see the edges. I just don't want to see I don't want there to be too much texture.
And so, how do you prepare them? Do you paint them? You water them? What do you do?
Gesso, water, and sand, and repeat like 10 times. So it takes a while to get to that.
And then what do you put on them?
Then I'll design what I want to put on them.
So it'd be pieces that you've put together.
that I've masked, and then I use automotive paint, which is like to me, I started getting into automotive paint when I moved to LA because I feel like that's like
shiny.
It's shiny and it sort of lends itself to the car culture that's pretty big.
Isn't it heavy for the canvas?
It is and it isn't. I mean, it does get heavy when you clear coat it and it becomes like this solid shiny thing. But the actual spraying isn't too thick.
Before we leave, just show us on your iPad what's at Launch Gallery right now.
The crux of the show has to do with, again, logos and sort of the way companies are now approaching product and projects and ideas, and they sort of measure the, I don't know, like how good they do. The barometer of how they do on the internet, sort of their viral lifespan. And they sort of are given a concept, they are released into the wild, and then they eventually fade away and they die. So I took this idea of flowers having a similar sort of timeline, and I wanted to inject logos, the shapes that I'm currently in love with, into that also because it's almost spring.
Yeah, so they're like very flowers opening.
Yeah, flowers blooming. I'm sort of starting a new relationship with the gallery, so it's sort of everything kind of fit with that, that concept.
Well, we can see that, and they come in they're different colors. The pink one's fabulous.
Yeah. Another thing too that's like, people are sort of engaged because they're trying to figure out what logos are there.
Oh, I see.
That's sort of another.
Yeah, so that's your interaction that you like. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Really, it was like, what is this guy going to talk about? Thanks very much.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep writing to JAQUINN1 at AOL.com. See you next time.